The global economic reset is here, just not the one they expected. Over the past few years, there's been a lot of talk about a looming reset of the global economy. Well, it's here. But it doesn't look like what many were anticipating. There's no coordinated global agreement. No neat rebalancing. Instead, what we are witnessing is chaotic, painful, and very real. A global economic reset is underway, and it's being driven by the most aggressive tariff war in modern history. Trillions of dollars have been invested into building today's global supply chains, the same ones now under threat. I've always said it was a mistake to make ourselves so dependent on foreign manufacturing. Yes, we need to bring production back home, but that's not something you can just do overnight. Take semiconductors. It costs about $10 billion to build a facility capable of producing advanced chips. And the timeline? 3 to 5 years. Minimum. So if anyone thinks we can just push a reset button and magically bring everything back onshore, they're dreaming. Meanwhile, the biggest tariff increase in US history has just hit. Companies that spend decades optimizing their supply chains, often investing billions to do so, are suddenly watching those investments turn into liabilities. As I wrote recently, the global economy has already been drifting in the wrong direction for some time. But now, it feels like someone just poured gasoline on the fire. And Wall Street. They weren't ready. Investors are panicking. They're selling first and asking questions later. These tariffs are sending shockwaves through the global financial system. They're raising fears of a worldwide downturn, and sharp price hikes, especially in the US, which remains the world's biggest consumer market. Michael Aron, from State Street Global Advisors, put it bluntly, the Trump administration may be playing a game of chicken with trading partners, but investors aren't waiting around to see how it ends. If you were still in the market when the carnage started, I hope you managed to get out in time. Now, many are hoping President Trump will walk this back. But from what we're hearing, there's no turning back. Administration officials have made it clear, the tariffs are happening. Period. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick said it plainly on Face the Nation, the tariffs are coming. He announced it, and he wasn't kidding. So get ready, because price increases are on the way. Big ones. Let's take iPhones, for example. Despite Apple's recent supply chain expansions, the majority of iPhones are still made in China, which is now facing a 54% tariff as of April 9th. That means the base model iPhone 16, which launched at $799, could soon cost over $1,100, a 43% price jump, according to analysts at Rosenblatt Securities. That's just one product. Multiply that across countless goods, and you start to see the impact this will have on the average American standard of living. But the story doesn't stop with the US and China. The Chinese government has fired back, with a 34% tariff on US goods, set to take effect April 10th. And Trump isn't backing down. He posted on Truth Social, China played it wrong, they panic, the one thing they cannot afford to do. And now? The European Union is entering the fight. The EU is preparing countermeasures on up to $28 billion worth of US imports. These aren't small, symbolic items either. We are talking US meat, cereals, wine, wood, clothing, even chewing gum, dental floss, vacuum cleaners, and toilet paper. This is no longer just a policy debate. This is a full-fledged global trade war between the US, China, and Europe. The three largest economic powers on the planet. What do you think that's going to do to the global economy? You don't need a PhD in economics to figure it out. JPMorgan's analysts say there's now a 60% chance of a US recession. In a note titled, "There Will Be Blood," they point out that this year's 22 percentage point increase in tariffs amounts to the biggest tax hike since 1968. And honestly, I think JPMorgan is being way too optimistic. There's no way we're getting out of this without real economic damage. Just look at the footwear and apparel industry. Since the 1990s, they've spent billions building supply chains in places like Vietnam, building infrastructure, ports, factories, and training workers. You can't just pick up the phone and order 20 million pairs of sneakers from India. The capacity doesn't exist. Idle factories are shut down. The workers are gone. And the technical capabilities for things like molded foam soles and polymer composites? They're not available just anywhere. Modern shoes can have 100 components, produced across multiple factories. If even one part is delayed, the whole chain slows down. It takes years to recreate a supply chain like that. These tariffs will produce winners and losers. But make no mistake, a lot of previously stable, successful businesses will not survive this. Bloomberg reports that distressed corporate debt is surging. Over $43 billion in loans and bonds are now in trouble. Companies that were hanging on are finding it nearly impossible to refinance. And here's the wildest part, some people think this is intentional. There's a theory going around, even shared by Trump himself on Truth Social, that this is a 4D chess move. The idea is that crashing the market will force the Fed to slash interest rates. That it will push cash into treasuries, weaken the dollar, and drive mortgage rates lower. But according to Trump's own economic team, that's not what's happening. Kevin Hassett, director of the National Economic Council, said flat out, a crashing stock market is not part of the strategy. Either way, the pain is here. Tariffs are essentially taxes, and right now, the US, China, and Europe are taxing the living daylights out of their own citizens. Governments may bring in more revenue. But consumers will pay the price. Our standard of living is about to take a hit. And economic activity across the board? It's going to slow down. If we don't change course soon, this won't end well.